From Ride the West Horse Expo in Spokane, Washington, Rainsman presents Part 10 of a 13-week series with Sharon Camarillo. This week, Sharon begins a two-part presentation of gymnastic exercises for the barrel horse.
You know, I'm just like the rest of you. I have a busy life. I have a 16-year-old child. I love the opportunity to be able to ride my horses and share a lifetime of trials and errors. And believe me, it's been a lifetime of trials and errors. What I want to go into today in our seminar, designed to show you some gymnastics for the performance and barrel horse. The idea that we have is the fact that there's two different schools of thought in training the barrel racing horse. One of them is patterning, which seems to be the most obvious, and I see the most trouble resulting from riders who are wanting to pattern their horses on a cloverleaf program. If the horse chooses to be correct off the pattern, stimulated by the visual aids of the barrels, then we clock a nice run. But if he chooses not to make the correct decision stimulated off the visual aid of the pattern, then you have a horse that's dropping a shoulder, you have a horse that's running by his barrels, missing his rate, drifting out away from a barrel turn. So what I like to do is stimulate my horse to be responsive to me, the rider, and I'd like to do this through a simulated series of gymnastic exercises. And the exercises that we're going to introduce to you today are just a minute opportunity to see the possibilities that are available to you. They're all designed off of traditional and basic horsemanship. The communication between the horse and rider, the balance of the rider carried through to the balanced horse, and believe me, if the rider isn't balanced, the horse will not be either. So we want to stimulate the horse to focus in on the rider, be responsive and confident in the rider's cues, and as many of the opportunities that we can utilize to create the same movements that a horse will be using in his barrel pattern without the cloverleaf pattern in front of them, we're going to do. We find that repetitious training, pattern work training, starts to create anxiety in our horses. So what we want to do just every once in a while is say, hey, aren't we having fun? Aren't we having fun yet? You bet. If we don't have a foundation, if we don't have gymnastic exercises to come back to, we're lost. So it's pay me now or pay me later, and I want to create a nice foundation on my young horse, get him to respond to my training aids, my hands, my seat, and my legs. I want to introduce speed and know I have a foundation back to rebalance the performance horse, regardless if it's a barrel horse. These are horsemanship exercises. This is just a minute opportunity in a world of gymnastic exercises. So you as the rider need to take the responsibility to just put together a nice little circuit training on your horse to create the response and the respect, the balance of the rider, to create a balance of horse. So when you start making your fast runs, they're consistent, they're efficient, and they're clocking. And the heart of the individual at that point will come out. And that's why it's very difficult in many cases to duplicate a winning horse's bloodlines. Because even though he's conformationally correct, he's designed and bred to do the event, he's athletic and has a good mindset, does he have the heart? This is a grueling event. It takes a gutsy horse that's not afraid to run in and eat those barrels up and drive away. Many times a smart horse will figure out how to cheat the rider. I'm going to settle back just a little bit into those barrels and I'm going to ease when I leave. It may be a 10th going in and a 10th leaving, but when you put it together with 3 cloverleaf barrels, all of a sudden that's a half a second. That quick makes the difference in a winning horse and a placing horse. That much time makes the difference in a horse that could be valued at $40,000 up to a horse that's valued $5,000. So what I want to do is create an individual that's a responsible package in whatever direction he chooses to go. What I've got set up here is what we call a serpentine. And you see that we've got 8 barrels out. You can use it with 6 barrels. You could go with 10. But what it's going to do is give me a visual aid to start to introduce some of the drills that I'm going to need on my barrel pattern. We've got cones set up on the first barrel and intermittently throughout the serpentine pattern. And what I'm going to do is initially just walk it, and I'm going to practice my balanced body position. So seat bones are even on both sides of the saddle, legs are even in my stirrup, shoulders are over my pelvis, chin up, eyes forward. And what I'm going to do is look to see where I want to ride my horse. Straight line is what I'm going to require between my barrels, and a straight line is what I'm going to work on my serpentine. So where I look is where I want to learn to ride my horse. Now, utilizing my rein aids, if my horse drifts out, I can pick him up and move him onto the line. And if he cuts too close to the barrel, I can pick him up from the inside and move him back on the line. When I'm on my barrel pattern, I want to pretend that my position is squared. When I'm on my serpentine, I want to pretend that my position through the barrels is squared. Rate my barrel, squeeze and move my horse's feet into the turn, outside rein to finish, even pressure with both reins, even pressure with both legs, asking my horse to move out forward. First cone says slow down. Second cone says initiate the turn. Third cone says ride to me and use the outside rein. Forward motion. Increase it to a jog. Again, rate, squeeze the legs, move through the turn, outside rein to finish. Chin up, eyes forward. I'm riding to the right of the cone. First cone says sit, squeeze the reins, slow down, squeeze the legs to continue the horse's forward motion, ride to the last cone, help with the outside rein to influence the horse's ability with his body to follow his nose. Rate, sit, take a hold of the reins. Start the nose and outside rein to finish. And how does this apply to a barrel? I'm going to pretend that my position through my barrel turn is straight and square. Now, if I only use part of my aid by just using that inside rein, I'm riding the right side of the horse, but what's happening to the left side? You see those barrel horses, when they leave a barrel, oftentimes they drift to the outside. So the only way for me to shut the door is to isolate the lateral or the left movement by closing the door and applying a little rein pressure to the outside of the horse. Again, chin up, eyes forward. Lay the plan and ride the plan. Where I look is where I'm going to ride my horse's feet. And I don't want to depend on the fence as a riding aid. I want my horse paying attention to me. Chin up, eyes forward, look and ride, rate. Squeeze your legs to keep your horse moving, and let's increase the pace. Nice extension on the correct diagonal. Sit, hold, rate, feel the horse come back. And I don't feel quite the response off my leg aid that I want to, so what I'm going to do is utilize a tool that's an extension of my leg, the end of the rein. Extend the stride on the correct diagonal, sit to a jog, ask the horse to collect, rate, and outside rein to finish. Inside rein cues the direction you want the horse to turn. Outside rein helps balance the horse's body. Extension on my correct right diagonal, to the left turn, ride to the finish cone, chin up, eyes forward, straight line, sit right, start the nose, and outside rein to finish. Now you'll notice too that this horse isn't being bent or drug through the turns. He's being driven through the turn from the hind end forward. That's called impulsion. And the impulsion starts in the horse's feet. It comes up through the hip, through the hock, across the back, to the pole, down to the horse's face, and back to the rider's hands. I can't steer the horse unless the horse is moving. So I'm not leaning forward and begging this horse to move and losing the connection with my seat aid. I'm sitting down in my saddle, softening my pelvis, going with the movement of the horse's legs, softening my lower back, and making sure my seat bones are even in the saddle. Extension on the correct diagonal, work on your length of stride, work on your shortening of the stride. You're going to need that on your barrel pattern. Now, when you get to be really wolfy, then you can go ahead and start the loping process. Let's get this organized here. So, left lead, sit right, at the midline, drop down right lead, right lead to the midline, right lead into the next position, and I'll circle this twice. Same thing, inside rein cues the direction, outside rein sends the body, right lead to the midline, left lead, and I'll circle again just to get our attention here. Not too much bend, nice straight. Left lead to the midline, right lead. Didn't get it, but I'm not going to rush it. I'll wait until it happens. Series of cues, patience, creates your responsive horse. Wrong lead behind, no issue. Drop and help, outside rein, back to your barrels. Midline, whoa, cue back into the correct right lead. Right lead to the midline, back into your left lead. Look and see where you're going. To the midline, and I'll go ahead and whoa at that first cone, which would represent the rate point on the barrel pattern. So anytime that we ask our horses to stop, then I want to influence the balance and the weight distribution with the reverse. And then you can see this mare is wanting to back out of the line of my approach. So a little more right rein, a little more right leg, back in the zone that's getting away from us. Her poles drop just a little bit too much. Elevate my hands, get her pole rebalanced, and quit her on the good point. Now carrying on right through the serpentine exercise, I'm going to visualize a midline, which is marked by a flag on the left fence and a yellow flag on the right fence. This is my midline. Two of the most difficult things for our horses to do is lope or travel in a perfect circle and ride in a straight line. So I'm going to utilize this midline in a teardrop fashion to get my horse balanced in between my reins and in between my legs, working on my balance seat. Back to the midline. Chin up, eyes forward. Sit, rate. Squeeze my legs. Drive my horse on the backside. Utilize a little outside rein, just as I'll be needing to do on the backside of my barrels. Back on my midline. Chin up, eyes forward. Again, I want to rate. Squeeze. Keep my horse moving right back into that little teardrop position, back onto the midline. Now, I'll extend the stride, correct diagonal, sit, collect, drive, teardrop back onto the midline, extension, wait for that collection, it's what you're going to need on your barrel pattern, and back onto the midline. Now, can we do this at a lope? Possibly. But what I want to work on is the opportunity for this horse to know that when I tip my belly button forward and go into the extension of my stride, cues the horse to leave a barrel, and when I sit, I want my horse to shorten the stride and prepare for a nice collected turn. Okay, back to the midline. Didn't get my lead, but that's not going to make me want to rush it. I'm just going to go right back into the pattern, midline, teardrop, midline, right lead, with a little bit of pressure on the outside rib, the outside neck, teardrop, midline, back the horse off behind the bridle. Wrong lead, we'll circle that again. No big deal. Identification helps you realize when the horse is out of balance. And it's a matter of taking the time to go ahead and rebalance. Drop down, simple lead change. Horse is wanting to stay just a little pushy ahead of the bridle, which is something that we experience off our race horses. And I'm just going to back her off to redistribute that weight across her back. So the teardrop and the serpentine are both very good exercises to start to create your extension and your collection. It allows a rider to practice their balance, utilize their aids of their hands, their seat, and their legs. And it gives you the opportunity now to start utilizing your arena in a gymnastic performance. Here you see a rectangle set up with cones. And I'm going to extend on the long side, sit, hold, wait for the collection before I change directions. Jog on the short side. Nose, outside rein. Extend on the long side. Sit, wait, don't let the horse turn till you're ready. Collection, rebalance. Nice squared movement around the cone. Utilize it as your barrel position. Nose to lead the direction, outside rein to send the body. Where am I looking? About 3 feet ahead of my horse's feet. Nice extension. Sit down, wait, patience. Nice collection. Rebalance, hold. That's kind of a half halt, it's not a stop, and that's what you're going to use on your barrel pattern. A half halt. Inside rein to tell her the direction. Outside rein to keep the shoulder underneath her. a little leg pressure to keep the rib cage underneath her. Balance the horse with the use of both your rein aids. Extension again. Sit, wait, collection. And what do we do when we stop our horses? Rebalance with a reverse. Now the reverse is something interesting too, because a horse should be able to go in the reverse fashion as easily as he walks forward. And what we see so many times, the riders are getting their horses dropped behind the bridle, and when a horse has his chin down to his chest, his shoulders are lowered and rounded, his weight's distributed unevenly on the forehand, and it's difficult for a horse to utilize his balance and body position to reverse. So what I want to do is recreate that headset by elevating my hands and using my rein aids, getting my horse's pole up and nose out slightly, squeezing, squeezing my legs, which cues the horse's leg movement, balance, and I want to quit her before she has the opportunity to quit me.
Reinsman is proud to bring you this 13-week series of Sharon Camarillo's Barrel Racing Clinic from Ride the West. Visit us at www.reinsman.com. For more information on Sharon's horsemanship and barrel racing clinics, visit her at www.sharoncamarillo.com. Next week, Sharon continues with the gymnastic exercises and several students ride for her. So join us again next week right here on Horse TV. This Sharon Camarillo series is produced by Advent Communications. Contact us at clinictv@aol.com.